Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Bestseller Books. I am your host, Cynthia Johnson, and I am joined today with Dr. Ruth Gotian, Chief Learning Officer and Associate Professor of Education in Anesthesiology at Weill Cornell Medicine, a globally recognized expert in mentorship and leadership development, and author of The Financial Times Guide to Mentoring. Welcome, Dr. Ruth. How are you?
Hello, and greetings from New York City.
Oh, New York, wonderful. It's so great to have you. And mentorship is such a important and confusing topic. Uh, I know from my experience, the confusion comes from people believing they understand it better than I think we do sometimes.
Yeah, and I think people are afraid to even reach out to people and ask for mentorship. So I'm here to debunk all of those things and get people unafraid and get people to hopefully really motivated and encouraged and inspired to find a mentor because those who are mentored out earn and outperform those who are not, and they get mentored more often. And while I'm encouraging everyone to find one or many mentors, I'm hoping I can encourage people to be a mentor as well. Not only do you learn a lot, as a mentor, you are 6 times more likely to get promoted. So it's a win-win all around.
Before we dive into the book, I'm curious, do you have any personal stories of your introduction into mentorship?
Yeah, I've been working on mentoring for decades. I've mentored hundreds and hundreds of people. I've been in higher education for 3 decades now. And I have seen the difference that it can make. It can make for other people. I share the story of somebody in the book, Dr. Odie Ahe, who reached out to me one time. She was wanted to be a doctor ever since she could walk. She doesn't remember not wanting to be one. And she reached out to me one day and said, "Can we chat?" And I said, "Sure." And we chatted, and it turns out she was becoming disenchanted with the field and she was going to drop out. And we had a conversation about what she would do, et cetera. And that led to some conversations, some opportunities. P.S. She stayed in medicine, and today she is a pediatric anesthesiologist and the vice chair of her department. And we recently presented together in Italy. So this is how one conversation, which could be meaningless to a mentor, could be meaningful to the mentee. And I've also had a life transformation from my mentor who shared 6 words with me that changed my life. I was 43 when I decided to go back to school and get my doctorate. And I was deciding, I knew I wanted to study success, and I was going to just do a pilot study to see the difference between one year and the next. And he told me, he said, "You're looking at a population." I was looking at physician scientists at the time. And he said, "You're looking at a population that no one has looked at in this way. Do something important, not just interesting." 6 words, do something important, not just interesting. And with those 6 words, it changed from a one institution pilot study to a global study, which has then led to expanding it to Nobel Prize winners and astronauts and Olympians and NBA champions, and led to my doctoral work. It led to my book, The Success Factor, and the new book, Financial Times Guide to Mentoring, and all of the articles. And one of the people who I got to interview was Dr. Tony Fauci, who led the COVID response in the United States. And I asked him, I said, "Well, how do you choose which infectious disease to study?" Because he's advised 7 presidents. I said, "There's so many, right?" And he's done Ebola and Zika and SARS and HIV, et cetera. He said, "I do what's important, not just interesting." Now, I've heard this before, right? And he followed up. He said, "When it's interesting, it's a hobby for you. But when it's important, it'll have a ripple effect that could positively impact millions of people you will never have the opportunity to meet." So now, whenever I sign copies of the book Financial Times Guide to Mentoring, I always put those 6 words in it above my signature: do something important, not just interesting. I am sharing the words of my mentor to the reader of the book.
Give me chills. It's the second time ever in all of the interviews I've given that's happened to me. uh, wow. So I mean, to go through that twice, it sort of reinforces you're on the
Yeah,
right path.
exactly right.
Do you also have a mentor while mentoring? And is it a lifelong?
Yes. I don't have one. I have lots of them.
Okay.
6, 7, 8. I keep adding and subtracting. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So I think if one mentor can teach you skills and give you perspective and introduce you to their network, imagine what a team of mentors can do, right? It's all of that on steroids. Now, the challenge is that most people are looking for mentors who are exactly like them. But I think the beauty is in the diversity. And here's what I mean by that. If I'm only getting those who look like me, yes, they can empathize with what I'm going through. They've been there, but they will have the same blinders that I have on, and I will be in an echo chamber, which means I'm not hearing new perspective. I'm not learning new skills. I am not being introduced to different networks. Now, the reason that's so important is if anyone who's listening has ever had surgery, they should know the first thing they do is they take a pause, and the surgical staff, they go through a checklist, and this is to prevent errors. Are we operating on the right limb? Is this the right person in the room, right? These basic things. The idea for a checklist came from the aviation industry. It's what pilots use before takeoff. Here's the healthcare, right? A problem in healthcare was solved with a solution from aviation. So, with that idea in mind, my mentors come from they're physicians, they're scientists, they're educators, they're finance, they're lawyers. I'm still looking for people in the creative arts. I think I may have found one. But I also have military. So, I think it's important because these are people who can teach you new things. I can teach them some new things and introduce them to different people as well. And look, being a mentor is not a life sentence. There's no start and end date. There are people who are my mentors in the past, and now I'm in a different stage of my career. So, for example, Dr. Marie Volpe was my doctoral dissertation advisor. And when I was going through that process, I spoke to her every single day. Every single day on my commute to work, we would have a chat. Now I'm not writing a dissertation. We have gone from mentor mentee to friends, and I talk to her about once a quarter. And the conversations are very, very different. It's more of a catch up. But there are new people, new mentors who have come in instead. There is no cap and there is no floor as to how many mentors you can have. So, and they don't need to be around a conference table like a board of directors. So you can always add and subtract people, and you're not subtracting them from their life, you're just putting them in a new category.
Is there a formal structure that should be followed? I mean, do you follow a formal structure?
So this is where a lot of people disagree. And my co-author, Andy Lapata, and I, uh, we disagreed on a few things, and we actually put both sides in the book so that the reader can make the decision that's right for themselves. One of the things that comes up is the formality of mentoring relationships. Some people, they want a contract or a compact, as they call it, an agreement, a very tight structure. We're meeting every other Tuesday at 4 o'clock. We're going to have an agenda. Somebody's taking notes. Now, that's all fine and well, but who's enforcing this contract, right? Who's the one who's taking notes? If I listen and I can't take notes and say, there's so many variables that need to be considered. I am less formal when it comes to the mentoring relationship, but I do a lot more check-ins. So, for example, if the meeting's supposed to happen every other Tuesday at 4 o'clock and I have a question on Thursday at 2 o'clock, do I now need to wait 2 weeks in order to ask you, or can I send you a quick email or a quick text message or stop you in the hallway or put it in a chat? What is the best way to do it? So I think questions come up at different times. I think our world is less formal than it used to be, and we need to evolve with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And is that maybe also something, because I know there's a difference between sponsorship and
Yes.
mentorship. I'm not as clear on what that would be. I'd love to hear from you.
Yes, yes. So why don't I even dial it back a little bit more and talk about role model, mentor, coach, and sponsor, and really just give the differences between all of them. But let me start with this premise. If the people listening don't remember the labels, don't worry. We've got enough labels in our lives. We don't need more. I just want you to realize that you need these types of people in your life. And if you give them the wrong name, the wrong label, don't worry about it. So let's start with a role model. A role model is someone who's doing something that you wish to aspire to. I'm a social scientist, I'm a qualitative researcher, which means I'm talking to people all the time, right? I interview them, and with interviewing, it's more listening than talking, right? Who's the best interviewer in the world? I think it's Oprah. Now, she's not a qualitative researcher, she's not a social scientist, but I think she's the best interviewer in the world because she can talk to the Prince of England or your next door neighbor and make them feel like they're the only person in the room and their story is the most pivotal one to be discussed right now. That is a gift. That's an absolute gift. So that's a role model. I'll never meet Oprah, maybe one day, but not likely, right? But there's something about her which I wish to emulate. So that's role model. A mentor is your guide by your side. They can see beyond the horizon that you're able to see for yourself. They're able to see multiple horizons beyond what you know to even exist. They're there for the long term. They're there to, it's really that wind beneath your wings, right? They help you with the career, but they are also helping you with the psychosocial support when things don't go your way. A proposal was rejected, or you didn't get a grant, or you didn't get a paper published, or you didn't get the job you wanted, whatever it is. Now, mentors, at least in the United States, do not get paid. In Europe, they do. Now, a coach, unlike a mentor, is usually for a finite period of time to work on specific skills. And coaches, especially the good ones, do get paid, right? And they get paid, the good ones get paid well. So, for example, you want to work on executive presence, you want to work on self confidence, you want to work on your leadership skills. That's something very specific, and a coach can help you with that. So now we have role model, mentor, coach. The last one, which is what kicked off this conversation, is a sponsor. A sponsor is the one who talks about you even when you're not in the room. They're the ones who are recommending you for jobs, awards, recognition, big assignments, top clients. They will talk about your work on social media. They will talk about you in the important rooms. That's what a sponsor can do for you. Role model, mentor, coach, and sponsor. Again, don't worry if you're not using the right labels. Just know that you need these types of people who can do these types of things for you in your life and in your career.
How, I mean, we're not in Europe. I don't need to go down. I'm very curious of how someone would get paid. First, maybe it's similar to the coaching model. Um, what are some of the issues that come up, or the pitfalls, for instance, when you enter that kind of relationship as a mentor mentee?
I think if you don't see eye to eye and you don't really know what you're coming in there for, that's a recipe for disaster. So, for example, if I walked into a mentor and said, "Can you help me with my career?" Where do I even start with that? I don't know. What have you done? Where do you want to go? It's too vague. And you haven't shown me what you've done. But if you told me, I am at this level, I want to get a promotion to this level within this time frame. Here's what needs to be done. Here's what I've done already, right? Or here's a project I want to work on. Here's where I'm stuck. I know you have experience in this. This helps me because I know what you want to talk about. I know what you've already done. I know where you want to go. Now I can help you get there. So you want to make it specific and you also want to make it time bound, especially in that first conversation. So if I originally said, Cynthia, can you help me with my career? We're like, okay, what do you want? And how long is this going to take? But if I said, Cynthia, I want to get to this level. I want to be at the director level and I want to get there ideally within about 2 years. I know this is what they're looking for. This is what I've done already. I know I can get these three things. This is the one area I'm stuck with, and I don't quite know how to approach it. I know you have experience in this. Could I grab 20 minutes on your schedule to just talk it through with you? You see what I've done. Tell me what I'm not thinking of. I would really appreciate it. That's very different because now you know what I want from you and how long it's going to take and why I specifically asked you. It's a very different conversation. We're focusing on this one thing. Now, if you tell me do A, B, and C, and I run off and do A and B, and I don't do C, but now I've explained to you why I haven't done C. I've thought about it. It's not the right fit for me because, right, you want to give an explanation. You don't want it to sound like you're lazy or you didn't get to it or you had too poor time management skills. You've actually thought about it. It doesn't align with your values. It conflicts with something else. You have to give a good reason. And therefore, I did A and B. Do you think that's enough? Do you think there's something else I should do? I'm keeping you in the loop constantly. Now you're like, oh, all right, what else is this person willing to do? Let me help them more. Look, half the Nobel Prize winners were trained by other Nobel Prize winners, or they're the grandchildren of other Nobel Prize winners in that academic family, right? And there's a reason for that because they know what needs to be done. They know how to do it. They know how to push someone to that level. And they're able to identify these diamonds in the rough. And they're there to polish them and really polish them. And that's what mentorship can do.
That is so unbelievably interesting. And I guess if you need to know when you're at the stage preparing for the Nobel Prize. Like you can't, you can't jump too soon. How do you structure the outreach? Is it, I know, like LinkedIn, or like where is it, through your network? How do you
To
decide
find
how
to find
to find the
mentors,
person? Yeah.
stop looking. So here's what I mean by that, right? When you walk into a room, do you say, I'm going to find my best friend today? Or if you walk into a room, do you say, I'm going to find my life partner here today? No. You were there to meet interesting people. And when you gel with the person, that's when you're going to have the best conversations. And when those conversations really start to be fruitful, you will see that the mentoring just happens organically. Look, 61% of mentoring relationships happen organically, and there's a reason for that, right?
Mm.
Because people like to help those who they know, like, and trust. You need to find a common thread with someone. You're not picking up some random person. Look, I once gave a keynote to all these people and I said, don't ever ask someone to be your mentor. If you ask someone to be your mentor, it sounds like you're asking them to take on another job, another responsibility, another obligation. They don't even know you. Why would they do that? But if you start to connect with them and you use the approach that I told you about, Cynthia, I really want to work on this. I know you have experience in this. I'm stuck on this one area. Can I grab 20 minutes of your time to talk about it? And you start to keep them in the loop and you start to offer them help with something. And I don't care how junior you are, there is always something that you can help with, always. That's when people will start to offer you more and more and more help. We've never given it the mentor label. Now, I once gave this big keynote, and and I said, don't ask someone to be your mentor. That's ask them to take on another obligation. At the end of the presentation, it was virtual. We all logged off. I get an email within seconds. Dr. Gotian, I loved the presentation. I loved what you said. Here's a copy of my dissertation. I'd love for you to review it. Now, dissertation is 100 or 200 pages long. And I didn't even respond because all I thought about was, you want me to review your dissertation? I don't even know you. Why would I read that? That takes hours and hours and hours of time. I don't know how you like to get feedback. I don't even know what this topic is, right? That's throwing spaghetti at the wall. That is not a strategy, right? Walk in, see who you connect with, and you will see how beautifully it will gel.
Is that also why, or like, organizations create mentorship programs? Because is it the same kind of, you're surrounded by the people day to day? I mean, do you suggest that organizations create these
Yes. So
mentorship
in
programs?
fact, 99% of the Fortune 50 companies have a formal mentoring program. And 90% of the Fortune 500 have a formal mentoring program. It has its place and it has its challenges. So let me tell you, especially where I think it has its place. Look, there are people like me who will find mentors wherever we go. We connect with people, it's not a problem. But for the people who are quieter, they're more introverted, or they come from statistically groups that do not ask for help for whatever reason. And these are generally women. These are generally underrepresented groups. These are generally from certain parts of the world where it's seen as a weakness if you ask for help. If that's the case, those people are never going to find mentors or are going to be very challenged in finding mentors. Now, we talked about all the benefits of mentoring. So we want to make sure that these people get mentoring. That's where formal programs are so great. I'm assigning you, you will have a mentor, right? Here where the challenges are, and this is one of the things that my co-author Andy Lapata and I really help with. First of all, the matching is very often done randomly, and that's a problem. If they just put me with another person because we're both from New York or we both went to the same institution, that's insanity because not everyone from New York is exactly the same, or not everyone who went to the same institution is exactly the same. So matching us based on that is ridiculous. It is a starting point, right? So that's great. Now, what happens if we don't gel? What happens if after we talked about our, our New York and the things we loved about New York and the things we don't love about New York and our favorite places to travel, what are we going to talk about? Well, that's when there are other ways to really do it. And this is where the formal programs don't always get it right. We would advocate for more than one mentor. And we would also advocate for regular check-ins. We would advocate for the training of the mentors and the mentees. And we would advocate for an exit ramp. Now, what do I mean by an exit ramp? We have the on-ramp. We've been assigned mentor-mentee, so I have somebody, anybody, right, to talk to. But what happens if we don't get along? Or what happens if you're really not the right fit for me? Or what happens if you are so busy and you don't even respond, or I can't find you? Well, then we need an exit ramp. We need a way to really get out of that mentoring relationship and find a new one. Mentoring teams are extraordinarily helpful for that.
And how would the organization uh, decide, like, what are the qualitative outcomes for something like this? Like, how are they like, this
Of a
worked?
mentoring program, how do we measure if it's working? Well, this is where a lot of institutions, they're expecting these immediate benefits where these things take time. But there are so many things that can be measured, but there are also things that cannot be measured. So we can measure, are people getting promoted more often? Are people seeking stretch assignments more often? Are people getting on choice committees? Are people getting awards? Are people volunteering more? What are they doing, right? Is the outcome more? The things that we cannot really measure or have a lot of difficulty in measuring is, does this person now have self-confidence? Does this person have the executive presence that they didn't before? These are some of the more anecdotal things that we can say, I think they do, but that's harder to measure. And these are actually things that happen and evolve over time. But what will happen, and this is an opportunity for measurement, is you'll know it's working if, let's say, I'm being mentored, and we know that those who are mentored are 5 times more likely to get promoted. I get promoted. Now, you know what the best mentors will do? They will pay it forward and start to mentor the next person. So, how many of the mentees are now becoming mentors? And now you're creating the cycle of success.
Makes sense. It's culture building too. Have this give and
100%.
take, ask questions, be open to feedback. I mean, I'm hearing all of these incredible outcomes, which again,
Yes,
it's this is what I'm seeing versus the longer outcomes reports. So
exactly.
who is this book? Who is this book for? Like really for? Like
Yes.
if,
So, Andy Lapata and I wrote the Financial Times Guide to Mentoring. It's part of the series, the Financial Times series. And it's really for those leaders within organizations, within the business world, those who are leading other people, leading organizations, time, place, people, money, how to do it better, how to do it right, how to mentor people who are different than you. And we have everything from not just how to mentor someone who is a high achiever, which is my background. I study high achievers, how to mentor those people versus how to mentor people who have neurodiversity, or how to mentor people who are older than you, younger than you, at your level. What's the difference between a coach and a mentor? What are the different ways to do it? And we also give it a global lens as well. What about reverse mentoring? We talk about all of these things and how to do it well, because no one has ever written that perfect playbook on mentoring. I used to be an assistant dean for mentoring at an Ivy League institution, and I was looking for this playbook. I own every book on mentoring there is, and there was not this one definitive source. So I wrote it. And I think this has anyone who wants to launch mentoring programs, design mentoring programs, be a mentor, or be an effective mentee within an organization, this is the book for you.
and in a second I'll ask where we can find it and all of the fun things. But I run a personal brand development agency, and I work with a lot of high achievers. And you just described a moment this moment that we love to see everyone get to when they realize all of the things they're looking for actually inside of them. And so
Yes,
this
that's
book,
right.
this book, was it through a mentor, or did you have this aha moment where I'm supposed to
Well,
do this?
so it's interesting because when I was looking, as I was cleaning up my stuff, I was looking at the personal statement that I wrote for my doctoral program. And I said I wanted to study mentoring because I had seen anecdotally its impact. And at the end, I took a different lens on it. I looked at it through high achievers and success. And that led to my previous book called The Success Factor. And one of the things that I had realized was that every single high achiever, from an astronaut to an NBA champion, had a team of mentors around them. And if it's good for these people, these Olympians and astronauts and Nobel Prize winners, why do the rest of us think that we don't need one? Now, originally my book, when I was talking to my editor, was going to be on mentoring. She said, no, no, no. First write it about success, and then you pull on the thread of mentoring. And that's exactly what happened. So in the Success Factor, there's a lot about mentoring. And then this new book is fully devoted to the topic. My co-author, Andy Lapata, who's British, and the Financial Times is a British publisher. He had previously written with the Financial Times, and he noticed that their series was missing a book on mentoring. And he works on professional relationships, which are the core essence of mentoring relationships. So he reached out to me about collaborating on this book, and the rest is history once we can figure out the difference between British and American English.
Yeah.
We got it to work.
Incredible. I love all of this. This is I think this is also a book I'll be gifting out this holiday because it's got all of the things you need, whether you think you're a mentor or you need a mentee. It might help guide us in a different direction than we expected as well. So
Absolutely.
thank you so much for joining. Please let everyone know where they can find more about you and the book, and then
Absolutely. So my name is Ruth Gotian, Gotian. LinkedIn is a great place to follow and learn all about mentoring and high achievers. It's just my name. And if you want to know more about the book and take a free assessment to see the impact of your mentoring relationships, go to mentoring-guide.com.
thank you so much. And thank you for joining. This is another episode of Bestseller Books, and we'll be back next week with a new author and a new topic. Thanks so much.
Thank you.